Well, g'day curd nerds. Today we're doing something a little bit different and we're going to be making mead. Now, this is not going to be a regular segment, unless of course you want it to be. I'm doing some brewing today and I thought, well, I've got the camera equipment out because I've made cheese, and I thought, well, why not show you how to make mead. This is the first time I've ever made it. I've brewed many batches of beer, but mead is something I've never made, and mead is basically honey wine. So we're going to be using some honey that was generously given to me and a whole bunch of other ingredients, and well, hopefully at the end there'll be something drinkable with a little bit of alcohol in it. Anyway, let's get on and see how we make mead. So the ingredients for the mead are 1.6 kilograms of honey, 1 large orange, 25 raisins, 1 cinnamon quill, 1 whole clove, and 1 teaspoon of bread yeast. Yes, I said bread yeast. And this recipe is designed for bread yeast. So gather all your equipment. I'm using a 5 litre or 1 gallon demijohn. I've got some glass jugs there, some teaspoons, a thermometer, and that's about it, I think. Maybe a bung and a airlock for the demijohn. Now, basically all I'm doing is pouring in 3.8 litres of water, which is 1 gallon, into the demijohn. This is just for measuring at this stage, so I'm just using tap water. So I'm just going to mark on the outside of the demijohn 3.8 litres, so I know where to pour next time. Just add the sanitizer and shake to dissolve. You can use Star San or any sort of sanitizer for home brewing. I'm just sanitizing the rest of my equipment in the jugs there. Just let that dry. Now I'm going to get my honey and I'm going to weigh out 1.6 kilograms or 3.53 pounds of honey. Just put that into the jug there. Now I'm using a large glass jug because I have to dissolve the honey in water in a second, so I can pour it into the demijohn. So I've weighed all that out, and as you can see there, it's 1.608. So I'm 8 grams over, but don't tell anybody. It's okay. So I boiled the kettle, but before I do anything else, I'm just going to cut up my orange into eighths. Now I did test to see if it would fit through the hole, so that's a bonus. And now we're going to add about 1 litre or a quart of boiling water into the jug that has the honey. So just give that a stir until all the honey is dissolved and it's just one big sugary liquid. This took a little bit of time, but it was no trouble. So once you can't feel any honey on the bottom anymore, then basically we're going to pour it into the big demijohn. Okay, all dissolved. So grab your trusty funnel and pour the honey mixture into the demijohn. Now those in the US may call it a carboy. I'm just calling it what it is called here in Australia. And there's a little bit in the bottom, so I just put a bit more water in. Okay, so that's all good. So next we're going to add the remaining ingredients except for the yeast. So we're going to add in the oranges. I'm just plonking them through the hole there. So make sure your orange is well washed so there's no wax on the outside of it. I washed mine with just hot tap water, gave a little bit of a scrub. And I'm putting in the cinnamon quill there now. And putting in the clove, 1 clove only. And then I'm putting in 25 raisins. Now the raisins are there for a reason. They are the yeast nutrient and they help ferment the honey. So I'm going to fill the demijohn with cold water to 3.8 litres or 4 quarts. So I'm just measuring that out using the trusty funnel, and I'm going up to that line that I marked on the outside of the demijohn. Okay, so we're at the mark. So we're going to put the bung back into the demijohn, and putting my finger over it, I'm going to shake the contents of the demijohn to oxygenate it, making sure that it ferments properly. So lots of air into the wort, as it's now known, which is the liquid inside. Now there's a sneaky little piece of orange that never made it into the demijohn, so we're going to pop that in. Nice. Pop the bung back on and give it another quick shake. Okay, let's put the airlock back into the bung again. So we're going to add some water into the airlock. It can just be tap water, it's no big deal. Just as long as there's about halfway up. There's a line on most airlocks to tell you where to put it to. Okay. So it's a little bit warm. I'm just checking the temperature with a cheese making thermometer. Now the wort should be about 21 degrees Celsius. And as I mentioned before, the wort is the contents of the demijohn, so it's the liquid. So I waited for about 10 minutes just to check the temperature was going to go down. You can see there's the line, the 3.8 litre line there. So I'm just taking the airlock off, and now I'm going to pitch the yeast, as it's called. So just make sure that the wort is at room temperature. So about 21 Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. So I'm going to put in my 1 teaspoon of baking yeast. Nothing special here. This is just, I think it's called Tandaco yeast. I should have used a funnel there. As you can see, it's a bit of a pain in the bottom. Even a piece of paper rolled up would work better than what's going on there. I did get a little bit of yeast in the top around the top of the demijohn. Using clean fingers, I got rid of that, so that's cool. So the bung could fit in. Now we can put the bung back in with the airlock and then give it a bit of a swish. So now we're going to ferment at room temperature. So I just left it sitting in the kitchen there for quite a while. See the yeast swirling around there. So the next day, probably took about 3 hours actually, but this is the next day, and you can see that there is some action going on in the airlock. You can see that the air is moving the water out the way. We've got a bubble. There we go. So that's carbon dioxide being produced. The other thing that yeast produces is alcohol. So carbon dioxide and alcohol. So about a week later, it went a bit cloudy, and you can see some sediment dropping down to the bottom, so that's good. And there it is the same week, and you can see that the airlock is still active. This is the middle of winter, or it's the start of winter, so it was pretty cool in the kitchen, about 18 degrees Celsius.
Much later.
Anyway, 5 months later, it has cleared up totally, and you can actually see that all of the fruit has dropped to the bottom, and it's looking crystal clear. Notice that all of the yeast, all the dead yeast, is sunk to the bottom as well. So now it's time to sanitize all the equipment for bottling. Now also a good sign that the mead is ready is that there is no more airlock activity. It took about a month after it started clearing for the airlock to stop bubbling. Anyway, I'm sanitizing all the equipment there. As you can see, my trusty siphon, which first time in use there, just sanitizing that. And all of the lids for the bottles and the little hose, I'm just sucking some sanitization fluid through there and putting the hose back on the siphon. And just get rid of there's the bung that's been sanitized, and all the bottles there, just shaking them up. Now I'm using 750 milliliter bottles. I'm not sure what that is in fluid ounces, but I'm sure you'll be able to figure that out. So they're all previously cleaned. I'm just sanitizing them there. Okay, we get the sanitizer out the way. And I'm putting the lids on the bottles, the wire. So even though I prepped 5 bottles, I really only needed 4, as I found out later on. So we're going to put the Mead bottle, or demijohn, sorry, above the decanting demijohn, which I just sanitized. It has to be higher or the siphon won't work. So I tried not to disturb any of the dead yeast on the bottom, which is actually called lees, L-E-E-S. Lees, and to stir up any the sediment. So I'm siphoning the mead from the fermenting demijohn into the decanting demijohn. This just makes it easier to bottle without disturbing any of the sediment on the bottom. So a few quick pumps. Nothing's happening. What's going on? Right, there we go. Now it's working. Now let's put a bit more tube into the decanting demijohn there. I found that actually worked a bit better. There we go. So as you can see, it is slowly decanting from the fermenting demijohn into the second vessel, or the decanting demijohn. There we go. Now we're going down a bit quicker. Just make sure that when you're using the siphon, it doesn't disturb the lees at the bottom. Now it's actually designed so it doesn't suck in any of the sediment anyway. So just stop just above the sediment, or the lees, the dead yeast. And that's easy. It usually runs out. You can pull the siphon out. Now you won't be able to get all of the mead out of the fermenting demijohn. It's just not possible without disturbing the lees. So you're going to waste a little bit of it. Lucky if it's 100 millilitres. So as you can see there's all the fruit and the leftover mead, all the sediment, the cinnamon quill, the raisins and all that. Anyway, you notice that the mead is not as clear as it was when it was in the fermenting demijohn. That's because a little bit of sediment came across. What I could do is put the airlock on top and let it sit for a week and it'll just clear up all by itself, but I decided to go ahead and bottle it at this stage because I had everything prepared. I didn't want to have to re-sanitize everything. So basically siphon the mead into the 750 milliliter bottles. Easier said than done for the first one. I should have put, oh, there we go. That's the reason why it was easier said than done. I put a little bit more in there and then it decanted in. And just to stop it, I just pulled the siphon out, pop the next one in, give it a quick pump, and away she went. So pretty easy. It's only 4 bottles. So I'm just filling it up to the bottom of the neck. Now this mead is not going to be sparkling or anything like that. I didn't add any extra sugar in the bottom to start secondary fermentation. So it won't be sparkling, it'll be still mead. And there we go, that's the, should have used a funnel there too, but got it all in there. Lovely. So that's what it looks like. A mead improves and clears with age. It will taste even better than what this taste test is. Anyway, over to Gav. Well, there you go. That's how you make mead. Now, I could say, g'day mead nerds, but it doesn't have the same ring, does it, as curd nerds. So I've got my favourite little sherry glass. We've got a bottle of mead. Alcohol content unknown. I would say probably it's about 8% by volume, I think, or absolute alcohol value. Anyway, here we go. Smells a bit like sherry. Maybe that's just, I just got that in my mind. There you go, nice honey colour. Let's put the lid back on in case I knock it over. So it's pretty clear. It could clear up a little bit. It will in the bottles. I'm going to leave it for about another probably 2 months before I drink it, serve it up proper. But by that time, any sediment that had been transferred during the siphoning into the second demijohn and then into the bottles would have settled to the bottom. And then we pour it out. You don't pour the sediment out, it just stays in the bottom of the bottle. It'll be a really fine line, but just make sure that, well, what I'm going to make sure is that I don't shake the bottle at all. And it should be fine, it should just sit on the bottom. Anyway, it's a little, just a tiny bit cloudy, even though in the main fermenting demijohn it was crystal clear, absolutely crystal clear. But the colour looked a bit darker in the demijohn because it's got a browny blue tinge to the glass, so it's a little bit deceptive. So it smells nice. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. It's got a little honey flavour, of course. It's slightly sweet. Yep, there's a little bit of alcohol kick there. Very nice indeed. It's slightly syrupy, if that makes sense. More like a liqueur than a wine, I would think. Oh, absolutely delightful. You can taste a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of cloves. It's got some citrusy flavours to it as well. Oh, this is fabulous. This is an absolutely winner. It's a winner. I've never been so excited about an alcoholic beverage in my life, I don't think. But my goodness, that's good. Oh, it's very Moorish. God, you wouldn't want to drink too much, I tell you. Anyway, that is very nice spiced mead. I can't fault it, really. It's the flavours are beautiful. We'll see if I have a headache tomorrow, but I doubt it. It's coating the inside of my my esophagus. It's lovely, and it's got a lovely mouthfeel. It's very rich and it's dreamy, I would say. Very nice. I'm going to go. I bought some more honey. I bought a lighter variety of honey, lighter in colour, today at one of the markets we visited. Kim and I visited, and I'm going to try and make another batch. I'll have to wait. I forgot to buy some oranges, so I'd like another batch just like this. Because I wouldn't change the recipe at all. It's just fabulous. So whoever the Illawarra beekeeper was that wrote the recipe, kudos to him. I'll link that in the description below if anybody wants to find the mead recipe. But absolutely delightful, so nice. What more can I say? Let me just think. What kit would go? Could we make this with? I'm pretty sure that the actual cider kit itself has the demijohn, and but it's got these bottles as well with the swing lids, and it's got sanitization stuff, mainly designed for making cider, but it has all the equipment you need. Quite heavy. We don't ship that one internationally though, because it's so heavy. So those Aussies of you who want to have a go, just check out the there's a Mad Millie cider kit we've got online, and it'll help you make this with all the ingredients. It's got all the sanitizers and all that sort of stuff. It won't have the siphon. You notice the siphon was really cool. I actually picked that up at a homebrew shop because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get too much sediment in the mead, and this is just very, very nice. Well, hope you enjoyed that variation on the cheese channel. Not really cheesy. What cheese would it go with? Oh, let me think about that. I think it'd go with a fresh cheese, or even a camembert, brie, maybe something like that. Something a little bit subtle, creamy and rich. That would be very nice with this mead. Anyway, if you like this video, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below if you'd like to see more brewing type videos like this. I know YouTube's a bit of a fickle thing, that you really do have to stick to one subject on the channel, but I don't mind. Look, documenting how I made this mead. Basically, I made it one day, let it sit for 5 months, and maybe 6 months, and then siphon it off and drink it. Absolutely fantastic. Not much more effort than that. Bit like making a cheese, really, except you have to turn the cheese once a week. This is even simpler. So, yeah, let me know if you liked it, and whether you think you'll be up to watching another, you know, I could make different types of meads and stuff like that. Certainly not going to get into beer brewing. That's way in my past. I've done that before, so we're not going to venture down that path again. But this, very nice, everything in moderation, delightful. So spiced mead, can't beat it. All right, well, thank you for watching, Curd Nerds, and I'll see you next time.